The antidote to fear is gentleness. I love that to start off this Gene Key contemplation, Gene Key 48. The shadow is an inadequacy, and the gift is resourcefulness, and the city is wisdom. And this feels like the most ridiculous time for me to record this video, but I'm here alone in Tofino, and I thought that I would have the beautiful scenery behind me. I'll probably share a clip with you. But here I am instead in this cabin with the fire. I'm attending to my needs more so right now. I'm very exhausted and tired and going through a massive transition if you've been following my contemplations the past few months. And I'm really tired and I have no idea what's going to come out of me right now, but I'm surrendered, and I'm hoping that some wisdom comes through me. And as we journey through the shadow and ascend through the frequencies, I'll get to more of what Richard Rudd speaks about as wisdom as we get to the citic level. But let's first start in the shadow. So the shadow, our victim, more of our victim consciousness, is the fear of the unknown, basically, is what this inadequacy is speaking to, the fear of the unknown. And Sam, the dog over there, is just wanting to get out. And we're right currently now in this transitional period of rehoming the dogs. So very much unknown. The new owner was just here, and we were going through the emotional process of what it's going to be, and it is very unknown. Like, will this be successful? We hope it's going to be. Not only are we rehoming the dogs, but we ourselves are being rehomed. We just traveled across Ontario and here on Vancouver Island, and lots of unknowns. And it's interesting because this gene key speaks to the cycle of 8 to 14. Here's Sam. Good boy. Lie down, my boy. And we will have some sort of event occur in our life in that period of time that will imprint us at an emotional level. And just the previous gene key, I spoke more about these cycles of 7 that we go through, and the EQ, the emotional quotient. And it's really interesting because during that period of my life, I had a traumatic experience with our family dog, drowning actually. And that triggered a whole bunch of things, which I won't go into, but it's just interesting because I'm now rehoming my dogs. They weren't my dogs initially, but they've become my dogs. And they're being rehomed by their first owner. So letting go of the dogs, and just it's interesting timing. And I don't want to get too much about me in this, other than this interesting period of 8 to 14, and just contemplating that for yourself of, what happened to you during that time, and how did that imprint your beliefs about your life, and do your beliefs come from this more shadow consciousness of having a fear of the unknown, or, as we discuss in the wisdom, in the vibrational theme of the citic level, is wisdom comes from the unknown. And I love what Richard Rudd says about the gentleness, that as children we are very gentle. You see a child with a dog, they're very gentle, and we are basically we unlearn our gentleness because we start to feel the tension around us. And so our bodies get tense, and that's where the fear starts to kick in, that fight or flight. And that can really speak to the inadequacy we can feel when we're facing the unknown, that we won't be able to cope. The belief that we can't cope, or the fear that we will fail or falter. And I've noticed those thought forms come in during this process of, like, what if first of all, just driving across Canada in a small car with 2 dogs is just going to be a nightmare. And, what am I doing? And letting those thoughts just drift away and not attaching to them. And what if, this is not a successful mission of the dogs being rehomed, and letting go of those thoughts and not attaching to them. And, what if I'm moving into this new province and this completely new way of living? Because as I mentioned in previous videos, I'm moving into a float home. And what if I hate it? And just letting those thoughts go and not attaching to them is a part of like climbing out of the victim consciousness and really, believing that I can cope, and that at the gift level, I am innately resourceful. And as humans, we are very resourceful when we're gentle with ourselves and we've let go of the tension in our body. We have these intuitions or these insights or resources that literally come into our life. And that's been the experience this whole journey across Canada. It's been above and beyond my expectations of relaxed and flowing, and it's just been amazing. And the resourcefulness in the I Ching, this hexagram is referred to as the well. And the well speaks to both the depth that we have within ourselves, this structure, the inner structure of cultivating gentleness with ourselves that keeps us open to this higher vibration of being tapped into this resourcefulness. And if we think about the metaphor of a well, there's infinite water. It's just, we are infinite beings. And I love that. Yeah, as Richard Rudd says, one of our problems is intention. We've learned tension and unlearned gentleness. The kidneys relating to the body is, in Chinese medicine, he speaks of the seat of fear, but it's also where we can find virtue and gentleness. The kidneys just back here, just by the ribs, the low ribs. And I've really been tuning in to my body during this process and unlearning the tension, and really being in this practice of, during a lot of change, how can I continually soften my body, deepen my breath, and become more gentle? And I just love that idea, that resourcefulness. We can be resourceful. We all have the ability to be resourceful when we can release our tension and bring in gentleness. And then at the Siddhic level, wisdom is rooted in this not knowing, but there's not the fear in the not knowing. It's this trust that wisdom bubbles up like a spring within us. And we all have access to this wisdom at this higher frequency level. It's in our DNA. It's in the rays of the sun. It's in the water. And when we let go, as I did before I turned on the camera and hit the record button, I really never know what I'm going to say. Sometimes I have my notes here, and sometimes I follow them, and sometimes I don't. But the wisdom comes from the void. It comes from, you look down a well, and Richard Rudd speaks about this in his audio. You look down into this void, you can't see the bottom. And that void space, that empty space, the yin, more yin quality of us is where that wisdom bubbles up. And we've been a culture that has really put a priority on knowledge. And as he speaks, knowledge is not the same as wisdom. And, knowledge is something that we can kind of feel like we can grasp and hold and keep. And wisdom is just something that bubbles up and it's gone. And as soon as we try to turn that wisdom into knowledge, it's no longer wisdom anymore. And really listening to Richard Rudd speak about the wisdom it's you can't grasp it really. And even I find myself trying to talk about it, it's like beyond words. So I feel guided to just kind of put my hands on my kidneys, and maybe we can all finish this contemplation together. Just closing your eyes and breathing into your kidneys and tuning into if you feel tense and fear, or if you feel gentleness and the virtue of resourcefulness. Just allowing your breath to breathe you. And maybe asking your inner well if it has a message for you, a message, a piece of wisdom that wants to bubble up and be shared with you. Thanks for watching. Feel free to share if you want to what came up for you in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.